Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So, we're still kind of waiting on that Nintendo Direct. We have no idea when it's going to be by this point, but out of nowhere, Nintendo, they actually did announce a brand new game today. This was a little bit of a surprise, but I think a lot of people are going to be pretty happy with this title, and it actually does, in my opinion, look pretty good, so we're going to talk about that one a little later on today. Also, a major leak is in the process of happening right now. This is kind of similar to what happened to Capcom a few years back, where their entire schedule leaked out online, and this might have actually happened with another publisher today, so we'll talk about that one as well. Before we get into all that, though, of course, we do have plenty of other things to talk about, starting off with Xbox Game Pass. We always love talking about Xbox Game Pass here, as they just continuously bring out more and more games. And, well, they had a bit of a shadow drop here being Garden Story. This, I believe, is actually the 14th release for Xbox Game Pass this month alone. For some reason, though, they didn't include this in their monthly lineup where they revealed their first wave of games for July. So this just kind of came out of nowhere, but it is officially available right now on Xbox Game Pass, so go download it if you're interested in what you see here. Garden Story, though, is a smaller independent game with a lot of charm, and I think rather attractive with its pastel colors and its retro top-down vibe. I can definitely see how Garden Story could come off as nostalgic. You, however, do play as a grape in this game, which is different but oddly cute at the same time, and it's described as a wholesome action RPG. Now, I have not played this game as of yet, but I have heard some good things about it in the past, and it seems like a rather solid game. I have to say, I might have to give this one a try. Again, if you're interested in Garden Story, you can go download this game right now on Xbox Game Pass. Also, Respawn Entertainment continues to be very busy, as it sounds like they are working on yet another game. Of course, they are working on Apex Legends, that is a live service title. They're also working on Star Wars Jedi Survivor, as well as multiple other Star Wars titles. And on top of all that, they now have a job listing on their website that apparently is for an entirely different game, and is being described as an Apex Universe FPS incubation title. Now, not much else is really known about this game, but it does appear to be some type of single-player game. And, well, ironically, this is coming from the Apex universe, which is also the same universe as Titanfall. So, for everybody that's been asking for Titanfall 3, I mean, this is a single-player game set in the same universe, so that is quite interesting right there. But yes, Respawn Entertainment, it seems that they are very, very busy working on several titles. Now, with that in mind, this is an incubation title, so this is not a game that's going to be releasing anytime soon. This game more than likely is still years away, but I think that if you are a Respawn Entertainment fan, then I would still say that this is very exciting. They are a very talented studio, as they have shown time and time again with Titanfall, Apex Legends, and of course Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Those are excellent games, whether those are multiplayer or single player. Respawn just quite frankly knows how to make great games, but it is interesting to see them just kind of further expand the Apex or Titanfall universe just a little bit further. Now, this game might be entirely different than both of those, but we'll see how they expand this universe when they do eventually announce this game officially sometime in the future. Moving on, though, we do have another studio acquisition to talk about today, as yes, that acquisition season continues on, as Nordisk Games just acquired SuperMassiveGames. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting pickup, because SuperMassiveGames, this is the studio behind games like Until Dawn and most recently The Quarry. Both of these games are pretty well received among fans and critics alike. So if anything, SuperMassiveGames, they've carved out a bit of a niche in the world of horror games, and with all of these acquisitions here in the last few years, I'm sure they were garnering a lot of attention behind the scenes. In fact, I've seen a lot of fans bring them up when it comes to buyout speculations. I've seen both PlayStation and Xbox fans talk about them in the past, but, well, Nordisk Games here, they came in and swooped them up instead, which really I think is probably best for everybody involved. That means more than likely, nothing too drastic will change for fans of their games in the future. The CEO of Nordisk Games has already spoken out, stating they see potential in SuperMassiveGames continuing development for narrative-driven games. So this here will probably give them more stability in the future, and as for Nordisk Games themselves, they're quietly putting together a decent stable of studios, including Avalanche Studios, that's the big one, Flashbulb Games, Kogama, Mercury Steam, that's the developer behind Metroid Dread. You also have Nitro Games, Star Stable Entertainment, and now, of course, SuperMassiveGames. Let's go talk about this big leak though, and this is for Bandai Namco. Now what's happening here is that they've reportedly been hit by a ransomware attack by a group that goes by the name of Alph V, or otherwise known as Black Cat. What that means is that they've been infiltrated and have had a data breach, and that data has now been encrypted and is being held for ransom until their demands are reached. Basically, otherwise this group is looking to get paid by Bandai Namco. Really, this entire situation is messed up, but that's currently what's happening as of this moment, and this is actually quite similar to what happened just a few years ago with Capcom. Back in 2020, if you remember right, they were hit by a ransomware attack as well that led to several of their networks being shut down, personal information for their employees were involved, and yes, public leaks were also involved as well. It was actually probably one of the biggest leaks in gaming history, as Capcom's entire planned schedule for the next 3 years made their way online. To this day, that leak continues to be accurate with games such as Street Fighter VI, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Dragon's Dogma 2, among several other games appearing on that leak. So here with Bandai Namco finding themselves in a very similar situation, it is quite possible that leaks start to make their way online. The reason for this is because these ransomware groups, they leak this information kind of showing that they're serious about their demands. Again, this entire situation is messed up for all involved. With that said though, an alleged Bandai Namco leak did make its way online, though just as a bit of a forewarning here, there is a very good chance that this is faked. It's highly likely that somebody is just kind of taking advantage of all the timing of this to basically troll, and that's kind of what I actually expect here. But supposedly, a picture of Bandai Namco's fiscal year 2023 lineup made its way online. Now, I'm not going to include the pictures of this leak on my channel just in case, but the games listed are Armored Core and Dragon Ball Breaker for Q1. Then in Q2, supposedly, you have Little Nightmares 3, Dragon Ball FighterZ Super, and then Digimon Cyber Sleuth 2. Then for Q3, you have Elden Ring, Barbarians of the Badland, Tales of Ascension, and Tekken 8. And then last but not least, in Q4, you have Code Vein 2, One Punch Man Fighters Association, and Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. By this point, this leaked image has made its way all across the internet, and at first glance, as a fan, yeah, you kind of look at this and you're kind of like, yeah, I'm hoping all of this is true. That's an excellent lineup of games coming from Bandai Namco, but the truth is, this likely is not true. Now, the reason I say that is really for a few different reasons. One, I'm pretty sure that Bandai Namco already confirmed that the next Digimon story is not Cyber Sleuth related, and if that's true, that's already a dead giveaway that this list is indeed fake. Added to that, though, it's also been spotted that the Tekken logo that they used in the picture here was fan-made. And then, last but not least, Barbarians of the Badland is just a ridiculous name for Elden Ring DLC. I would be shocked if they named it something like that. That's why I'd also be shocked, again, if this leak actually turned out to be true. Like I said before, though, Bandai Namco, they legitimately are in a process of a major data breach. That much is true, and because of that, it is quite possible that information will end up leaking in the coming weeks. I'm not necessarily so sure about this leak here, and with that said, I'm also not rooting for something like this to happen, but it does kind of explain why this particular leak just kind of exploded online the way that it did. Let me know what you all think about this, though. Are you on Team Real or Team Fake? Now, Nintendo also announced a game today, just kind of out of nowhere. I don't think anybody was necessarily expecting this. I didn't see any rumors or leaks, anything like that. So this was a bit of a surprise, which is nice to see anymore. But yes, a new Kirby game is indeed set to release this summer, being Kirby's Dream Buffet. Now, this is a smaller game releasing exclusively in the digital eShop, which Kirby's certainly no stranger to. We've seen them release these spin-off Kirby games in the past, including doing Kirby Fighters 2 for the Switch just a few years back. So it's that type of game. It's another one of those Kirby spin-offs. But I also think that this newest release, being Dream Buffet, I think that it actually looks pretty good. It is a 4-player multiplayer game where you race through different obstacle courses, kind of like Fall Guys, but with a new Kirby-like spin to it. As you're going through the 4 stages that they've made, you'll collect as much food as you possibly can to increase in size, which seems to make you move just a bit faster. Not entirely sure about that just yet. But also, this being a Kirby game, you'll have access to some of his familiar abilities, which that could be fun in a party game like this. I will say that I really do like this idea, though. It does remind me a bit of Fall Guys to an extent, which, to be fair, when that game first came out, I also said that it reminded me of Mario Party, so, I mean, I guess we're just going full circle here. But I do think that it's cool to see Nintendo make a game like this. You know, I do like when Nintendo tries to experiment a little bit, as they are very creative. I mean, we've seen them time and time again in the past, you know, put these really creative games together. And if anything, this game here, it looks like a fun party game, which is something that Nintendo, I mean, they truly do excel at. And with it releasing this summer, it just adds to an already good lineup of Nintendo titles. I mean, if you really start to think about it, over the next 3 months, all these games are releasing exclusively for the Nintendo Switch. That includes Live Alive HD, Xenoblade 3, Splatoon 3, and now Kirby's Dream Buffet. I would say that that's a pretty good lineup of games, and this is actually an acquired part of the year, or at least typically. Nintendo's kind of changing that a bit here. But, I mean, yeah, I would say Nintendo's doing pretty well, and I'm sure that they will still have a few surprises for this holiday on top of that. Let me know, though, are you interested in Kirby's Dream Buffet? Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, are you satisfied with this generation of gaming so far? And as you can see here, you all are very split on this decision, with 47% of you saying yes, while 46% of you said no. I think that this might actually be the most split I've seen the results since we started doing these polls on this channel. And just kind of looking through the comments, that's not necessarily because the consoles per se. Seems like a lot of you all are very happy with that new standard of 60 frames per second. That has been such a huge improvement this generation, alongside better load times thanks to those NVMe solid-state drives. Unfortunately, 4K 60 frames per second and ray tracing altogether have proven difficult, but just the power of these consoles has really shined bright this generation so far, or at least in my opinion. I think going back to 30 frames per second is kind of hard to do by this point, but I'd say that these consoles have definitely delivered on a much better technical experience. And the thing about that, as we've talked about on this channel before, is that they should continuously improve throughout this generation thanks to new tools, engines, and technology. Things like Unreal Engine 5 and AMD's FSR 2.0 should really help games further improve over the next few years. As for those that have been disappointed in this generation, though, a lot of that seems to kind of be linked to the software side of things. So far this generation, there haven't really been a lot of quote-unquote next-generation exclusives, really from either Xbox or PlayStation. Most games at this point have been cross-generation titles, though I do expect that to really change a lot over the next 12 or so months. Xbox did let fans know ahead of time that for the first 2 years, they would release most of their games on both the Xbox One and the Xbox Series, but starting in 2023, we might start to see them transition just a little bit more into the Xbox Series. We're also seeing several third-party games go in this direction as well. Even then, though, I do think that it was a smart decision to make cross-generation titles early on, not only because we've seen things like this in the past, but with this generation specifically. I mean, to this day, that initial demand for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 still have not been met. They still are selling out to this day, and with that chip shortage going on, it still might take a while. So these cross-generation games kind of worked out for those that have been unable to secure one of these new consoles. The one other complaint that I saw, though, was with all these delays. You know, this generation has been peculiar, and it has been majorly impacted by worldwide events, which have caused several delays, and I mean a lot of delays. It seems like almost every big AAA game has had some sort of delay, and that's only the stuff that we publicly know about. I'm sure that there's still a lot of internal delays that we don't know about. So I can definitely see why that would be disappointing as these games continuously get pushed back. I think it's understandable, but yes, I can still see it as disappointing. I'll just kind of say for myself, though, that I am very satisfied with this generation so far. The power of these consoles, they just make games feel so much better, and that's not just with new releases, but also backwards compatible games. The Xbox Series X in specific has really set a new bar for backwards compatible games, and I just have so many games, new and old, that I'm still playing through. So I would definitely say that I'm happy, but still, looking through the results here, it definitely seems like a lot of you all are yet to be satisfied. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.